What you are listening to is real. The parties involved are not cool. They are actual geeks with a case pending in the court of public opinion. The party's case has been dismissed, and the dispute will be settled here on our podcast. There will be no lawyers. There will be no witness testimony. The judge's decisions are final.
Hello, I'm Judge Ivan.
I'm Judge Jonathan, and this is Geeks on Trial. Today's case, nice day for a red wedding.
Welcome to Geeks on Trial. This is the podcast where we settle petty disputes between actual geeks over movies, video games, board games, and more. If you'd like to submit your own geeky case for a future episode, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/geeksontrial for just a few bucks a month, and you'll gain early access to both our audio and our video episodes before they're released to that general public.
That there general public, they not gonna get it before you get it,
They
boy.
They gonna get it, boy.
You gonna get it first. Ooh.
You gonna get it.
Oh, baby.
Oh, Cletus.
Who's excited for today's episode? I am.
I'm okay with it.
A lot of people in the audience just raised their hands, and that's exciting. They're raising their hands in their cars, and they're veering off the road because of it, and we caused that. That's the kind of impact we have on society.
It's true.
Now,
auto deaths are what Geeks on Trial is for.
that's one of our main things. That's sort of one of the main tenets of our podcast.
It's true.
Before we get to today's case, I thought that, as usual, we would have some banter. And there's some tech stuff going on. I think we are just inevitably going to be drawn back and back and back again to this topic of AI on
Which
this
stands
show.
for?
And not just on this show. I believe it's angry insects. But, yes,
Okay.
The problem is the economy. They are pissed. It's this not just on our show, but in society in general. We can't escape the AI. It's a thing that's we're going to be talking about this probably for the rest of our lives, or until it just becomes so normalized that we don't think about it anymore.
Or until AI takes over our lives and we just don't have to think about it anymore.
Oh, God. Sign me up. I can't wait.
I know.
But that's kind of the controversy at the heart of our little pre-show banter today. There has been some recent usage of AI in various artistic endeavors that some people have been upset about. And there's a few examples that I wanted to highlight. I'm sorry to shock you like that. I didn't know you were going to have that reaction.
Always giving me the shocker.
Whew. All right, so woo yeehaw, we're getting
Woo-wee.
good today, boy. Next up is me telling you the rest of this story. So, so first of all, in Pixar's recent animated movie Elemental, they used an AI process to help them animate specifically the flames on the fire character's head. Which otherwise, they said, would have taken much longer, been much more difficult because of the detail and level of complexity involved with the animation of the fire that is constantly happening anytime this character is on screen, which is most of the movie.
I honestly, whenever I have to adjust my flame in my hair, I hate it.
I get that. You and
It
Johnny
takes
Storm.
forever. All the time. I often call up AI, and Haley Joel Osment comes over and helps me.
and that's one of the things that AI is good for, but we'll get to that. Now, I haven't heard too much backlash to that specifically, but the things that I know people have been angry about, the other big one is another Disney property, in fact. This is Marvel's new show that's on Disney Plus called Secret Invasion. It's got Sammy LJ on there. It's got some other cool peeps. I haven't watched it yet. But the intro, the opening of this show, was apparently created using AI. It's an animated intro. The credits play over, and you kind of see silhouettes of the characters and their faces morphing and everything. People were not happy that AI was used to create this opening.
Not
and
happy at all.
there's also a video game called Firmament, which is from Cyan. This is the people who made Myst back in the day. At least
okay.
the same company. So this is their new big puzzle game. And that had some backlash to it as well. People saw in the credits it said that many aspects of the game utilized AI, including some of the writing, tweaks to the sound effects and dialogue, and all kinds of other aspects used AI. Now, there have been responses to this from some of these companies, but if we want to get to that maybe a little bit later, right off the bat, what's your gut reaction? Do you feel angry or upset, or do you have any emotions at all in response to hearing this news that there's AI being used?
No, I take quite a few pills to get rid of all my emotions, so that's all out the window now. It's just no. So it's publicly known on here that I went to film school. I'm a filmmaker. I do what we do here for a living.
It's a matter of public record.
And it is. You can go down to your public hall and ask AI, and they'll give you that record. But I don't mind it. I'm fine with them using it for little things. Like I was reading about the thing for Elemental, and it looks like it didn't create the entire thing. It helped them like fix the edges a little bit and get that little flicker and stuff like that. Sure, maybe the thing for the Marvel show that they created the entire opening using AI, that could be pushing a little bit. That's somebody's sole job to do that. And the thing with the video game, I don't know how much they actually use it for. But if you're using AI as a tool, I don't have an issue with it. Well, but if you're using it to fully create something, then I have a problem with it.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess the question is, what is the line there? And it's hard to say because we don't know. I still don't think we really know, like, for example, with Secret Invasion, how was it 100% AI created? Did someone had to guide that in some way? What does that mean? What does that look like exactly? The technology is so new that we don't really know yet. The elemental thing, I think, is definitely feels like a different case because that feels specifically like it was used as a tool. It was more like we want to analyze all these frames and insert things here and there, and it's a flame that you're seeing that maybe we could do that by hand, but it would be extremely tedious.
Now, I want to dig deeper into that one real quick before you get to the next
Sure.
thing. So AI has been around in video editing and especially in Adobe for at least 20 years. There's this little thing that I use all the time when creating graphics and stabilizing video. It's warp stabilizer. And that's where you take a pixel and you watch it move around the camera, and the artificial intelligence or the computer makes it so it won't move around. And yes, you can do that by hand, but you have to go through frame by frame. No filmmaker does that anymore.
Right.
That hasn't been done since like at least 20 years ago or more. So like a lot of things now that we're labeling as artificial intelligence were just called tools.
Right.
It was,
Yeah, I'm absolutely, and that's where I jump in. And unfortunately, there's not going to be a real bloodbath on the show today. We'll have to just come up. We'll have to, I don't know. We'll find a way to have some blood and gore later on.
Right.
But I pretty much agree with you, and I feel like maybe we're in the minority, at least in the vocal minority of people, loud people on the internet who like to complain and are getting so mad about these things. And so I'm specifically a backer of Firmament, the game that I mentioned. I backed it on Kickstarter. Right. I haven't had the chance to play it because, why would I don't play games? I just pay for them.
Right. We're consumers in the way that we consume things, but we don't use them.
Right. And I had no awareness of this until they sent out an update with an apology, like an explanation about, because apparently I think Polygon, some other Kotaku maybe had picked up on this and written an article about it. Mm-hmm. And my reaction was really just a big, who cares? I couldn't imagine being mad about it. I really felt like, well, is the game good? Like, if it's good and it delivers on the promise of what it was intended to be, which maybe it doesn't, I don't know. I haven't experienced it, but whether or not AI was used to help make it, personally, I don't care about that. Now, the instance of the Marvel thing, I think, like you said, that maybe goes further in the direction of, was it just entirely created by AI?
Yeah.
And the studio who helped make it supposedly said, for them, because the show is all about shape shifting, so they thought, AI kind of is supposed to have those vibes, and we wanted some kind of a weird effect like that.
Thus, using it for a tool.
Right. I still really don't have a problem. I really feel like a lot of this is a case of it's just new technology, and in 15 years, this is going to be every movie, every show, and no one's going to care. And we're just not used to it yet.
Well, let me ask you this question. You type and you write things on computers.
This is true.
Do you use spell check?
Sure. Yeah, right.
Spell check has been an artificial intelligence that recognizes people's words since Microsoft Word has been created.
Or how about a calculator?
Right. Like it is literally artificially telling you screwed up your word. Here's the little squiggle. There you go.
Or even, you use the warp stabilizer example, but even just basic Photoshop tools.
Yes.
There was definitely a time when Photoshop debuted when I'm sure people were saying, oh, you're not like hand painting or hand drawing 100%. It or creating it yourself. Or even when, CGI animated movies became more of a thing. There's still, purists who don't like that a computer is technically assisting in every Pixar movie. A computer assisted in creating every frame of that movie.
Exactly. Or like switching from 35 millimeter film to digital, you literally have artificial intelligence changing your lighting for you and doing film speed and stuff like that. Like literally it happens in everything, but we just happen to have labeled it now.
Right. Yeah. So I think the whole thing is overblown. Now there may be aspects of AI that can and will be troubling, and certainly the written side of AI, which we're not really talking about, is a different thing. We kind of had that discussion a while ago, but in general, I just think nobody's going to care about this. Even in 5 years, people might just not care.
And it's honestly, I don't think it's ever going to fully take away a job because, like, I'm a photographer, and look at Instagram. You have somebody takes a picture, they slide a few times, they find the right filter, and bam, it makes it look like a professional spent hours on it. You know what we did? We used those in the photography field, and now we're still making money.
Yeah.
Like we're there's still wedding photographers out there. People aren't just taking selfies of their weddings. People aren't, so I don't think it's ever going to fully get rid of animators fully. And you can't tell me that animators haven't been using quote unquote AI to help them every day.
Yeah. I mean, again, theoretically, how far you want to take this definition, what an AI that as we refer to it now, isn't really even AI, but a computer, like an animator's not making a character's arm move every single motion in a Shrek movie or whatever.
Right.
Like the computer's doing a lot of that stuff for them. And also I think it's important to note, based on what you just said, supposedly these companies said no jobs were replaced or anything like that. This was all, they kept all their current staff, and the staff just utilized the AI assisted tools to help them create these things. Whether or not that's true, whether or not that holds up in the long run, it's possible. You could maybe make an argument that maybe AI will remove jobs, but we've been over this before. I feel like it's also going to make jobs, and it's also going to it's going to do a lot of things.
And that's the other thing too. So the game developer, are they an indie company, or is this a big?
I mean, Cyan. I certainly wouldn't say they're one of the heavy hitters. They have to get their game funded on Kickstarter to make it out. So
they're not EA. They're not
right.
But I would feel more secure, like if an indie developer where it's like 3 people making a video game, we can't afford someone to do a quick animation, then what if they can't use AI? What are they just not going to make their game?
Yeah, I think that's the best case scenario. You enable creators to create things that they couldn't otherwise create.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if people will. It seems like so many people disagree with us and are so just the idea that they found out that something was made by AI, like they feel betrayed by it, like they were lied to.
Because now it has a title. And I don't think, we just didn't know AI was doing certain things back in the day.
Right.
But now it's like, they're taking over our jobs and they're doing whatever. They're not. They're not.
Cut to us in a robot-run concentration camp. Skynet surrounding us.
But
crying. This is our fault.
But this podcast, we use AI. Technically, we have, for background noise, that is an artificial intelligence that removes our background noise.
Well, that's true. And most of what I say is, I don't really have a voice. This is all AI creating what I sound like.
And I'm not actually on camera right now. This is a fully animated person on screen.
Yeah. And you like this shit, don't you? Anyway. Let's get into our main case, which has nothing to do with AI whatsoever. So we're going to completely bounce off that topic. Today's case comes to us from the internet. You can find a link in our episode description. Our defendant today is Caitlin. Caitlin has recently been invited to a wedding, one of her friend's weddings. A casual friend, she says. But Caitlin doesn't want to go to this wedding. Why? Because it's a Game of Thrones themed wedding. Now, Caitlin doesn't have a problem necessarily with Game of Thrones or even the idea of a themed wedding. The sticking point for Caitlin is that the entire wedding is going to be conducted in High Valyrian, which is a fictional language from the Game of Thrones universe. The ceremony, the reception, the speeches, everything is going to be High Valyrian, a language Caitlin does not speak. And she thinks, even though she already said she could attend, this was before she found out about this wrinkle, she's now a little bit worried and having second thoughts about it going to a wedding in which she does not understand anything that is being said. As dual judges here in Geeks on Trial, it's now our job to determine whether Caitlin, like Winter, should be coming to this wedding, or if, unlike Winter, Caitlin should not be coming to this wedding.
I didn't mind that one.
I told you we're gonna.
That's good.
I couldn't come up with two, so I just used the same one twice.
That's
and
fine.
It wasn't great the first time.
See, folks, this is why we need A, your money, so we can hire somebody. B, AI, because AI could have made this a lot faster. He spent 13 hours on this. He was like, I need some time. I need to come back.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. This is most of my working day. It's just Winter is not coming.
Coming. Who's
It's
coming?
just like a whiteboard with lots of things crossed out, like a bulletin board, like Charlie Day and Always Sunny with all the threads tied around. Yeah. Anyway, so where did we begin with this? I mean,
now I have a question to ask you because I found something interesting just about general weddings. How many weddings do you think you've been to in your lifetime, roughly?
Ooh, how many weddings have I been to in my lifetime, roughly?
Roughly.
I would guess maybe around 10 to 12. That's just a guess without me spending 5 minutes thinking about it.
That's probably, between like 10 and 20 for me. But like recently I heard somebody in a conversation being like, oh yeah, I've been to about 100, 150 weddings. And I'm like, is that number high? Do I not have friends? Like, what's...
That can't be correct.
Well, I think it's cultural thing. Like, I think a lot of like they come from a family with like 12 siblings on either side, so that makes more sense. But yeah, so that's a high number.
I feel like 10 even is a lot for some people.
10.
It depends. Like most of my weddings I've been to have been cousins, like extended family,
right.
And I feel like there's plenty of people who just don't have many cousins or just aren't in touch with them, who probably have only been to 3 or 4. I
totally see that. And like right now we're in the age where like our friends are slowly starting to get married. So it's like the number couldn't get higher, but like, that makes sense.
Which used to be in the old days, friends would have gotten married 15 years ago, but now millennials, it's hard.
Well, it's hard because we are poor.
Yeah. And with Tinder these days.
Oh boy. Well, I don't know what like,
don't even get me
fires?
started.
Like we have issues making fires in the
Well,
woods?
I'm an arsonist. I burned down a lot of wedding receptions.
Oh, that was you?
It causes problems. That's why a lot of people don't want to get married in this area, because of the wedding burner.
The wedding burner?
As the papers call me. I'll probably bleep a lot of this.
Is that the same paper that you use to burn things?
Maybe.
So when you go to those weddings, the 15 or so weddings that you've been to, were there themes to these weddings?
I have never, ever in my life been to a themed wedding. No,
neither have I. Like I've had there have been like, not I guess ethnic themes. It's not really a theme. That's like a family tradition. I've that thing, but like not really a theme like we're talking about in this wedding. Like, sure, I've been to like an Indian wedding. I've been to a Spanish wedding, whatever, Jewish wedding.
We all have.
But that's not a theme. That's a
yeah.
I guess
that's just how it's just like cultural.
That's their family's wedding.
That's just the way their weddings are.
But like, I've never been to a wedding where they're like, I need you to dress in, Star Trek uniforms so we all can get married or learn a language.
Yeah. Now, it's not clear to me, Caitlin's not a bridesmaid or anything at this wedding.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like they would be requiring guests to dress in costume, but it does sound like at least the main wedding party members would be in some kind of appropriate dress.
Right.
You got to assume if they're going to be speaking the language, they're going to wear the costumes as well.
Right. And if you are in the wedding party, you would kind of know that, like, you're clearly tight friends with these people. So you'd be like, oh, of course, they're going to have this kind of wedding.
Well, so what is your feeling? Would you be opposed to a themed wedding? I know there's a little bit of a... I meant to attend, but I know there's also some baggage there for if it were your own wedding.
I wouldn't, so like going to a wedding, I wouldn't be like, absolutely not. I'm not going to a theme wedding as long as the theme wasn't like, offensive.
Right.
Like,
what the theme is blackface. Come on.
Well, that's what, back in the day, that's what Paula Deen got canceled for. She did the Southern War, like the Revolutionary War themed
Paula.
wedding. And that was, those kind of weddings, I would be like, nah, I'm good, thank you.
It should have just been butter themed.
Butter themed. I liked everything about her. Butter theme. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be
racist.
opposed to going to a themed wedding. It would be fun. It would be entertaining. Even if it's something that I wouldn't know. Like if you were like, hey, come to this wedding. It's based on, Game of Thrones. Something that I haven't watched before. I'd be like, cool. I'll get into it. I'm not going to not dress. Like I'll dress in my normal wedding attire. But yeah, I would go and have fun. But if there was like requirements, I don't know.
Well, all right. So now, what about for your wedding?
You're digging me into a
We
hole.
have to.
So,
How are we not talk about this?
So we are actively just kind of in planning of a wedding, and like my fiance is a huge Star Trek fan. We wouldn't necessarily have a theme for it, but we'll have like little like the wedding party will probably have like a Star Trek pin. Like that'll be like a theme of it. But we're not going to do like everyone's going to be dressed in Star Trek uniforms or anything like that. It's going to be something like a subtle thing, but nothing like crazy like that.
But you maybe are considering a Quark's Bar wedding.
Well, that is going to be the full theme. Yeah, we are going to. Now, we did say back a few years ago they used to have a Quark's Bar in Vegas, we were going to do that for like our second wedding. Like, hey, we'll get married, do the official thing, and then him and I will go and have a Vegas wedding at Quark's Bar for the fun of it. But that has since closed. Oh shucks, but
That's yeah. They had a whole like Star Trek experience.
Yeah, they did.
That's I guess he never got to go to it.
Nope.
Yeah, it sounded cool. That's
because when it was like major, I think he was too young, and then like I think when Paramount started taking over stuff, they just stopped funding that.
It does feel like Star Trek might be one of the bigger franchises that hasn't yet made its way into any kind of a theme park or experience like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right.
But yeah.
Well, it's weird. Recently, I found out that Paramount used to own theme parks around the U.S. and they were competing against Universal Studios as like who gets what movie thing, because like technically, back in the day, Nickelodeon had the Universal theme park in Florida, in Orlando. But they're owned by a Paramount subsidiary. Who owns Nickelodeon?
Viacom?
Viacom, who's owned by Paramount. And they were like, why didn't Nickelodeon go to the Paramount parks, whatever. But yeah, so I found out recently that Paramount used to own theme parks. And they're like fairly big theme parks.
Feels like the kind of thing they would have in Dubai or something. Like that's where you go for the Star Trek. You ever see
like a weird
videos of the Dubai theme parks? And they'll have
insane.
Like a Scooby-Doo ride and like all this weird licensed stuff that like looks kind of cool and like nobody's there. It's always empty.
Right.
You're like,
and they have like a Corvette themed theme park where it's like everything is based around one car company.
Let's go. We gotta go to Dubai. I don't know what's going on over there. It's weird over there.
Our tier on our Patreon. If we reach $100 an episode, we'll go to Dubai.
Is it like super? I know it's they got a there's like super expensive stuff, but is it like everything there is so expensive. I don't know what's going on.
I can just tell you this, that like they have a vending machine that you can vending machine out gold bars. So that might give you a little...
Huh. Well, what's gold worth in today's economy anyway? That's
at
like
least,
$1
a
now.
dollar.
Yeah. It's 3 gold bars for a Hershey's bar at the Quickie Mart.
Yep.
All right. Now
but yeah, we wouldn't. I don't like we would have little like ties into Star Trek at our wedding, or like,
that. It's tasteful.
and like or like the wedding cake will have like the logo on it, and maybe like because I want to tie something in like a film reel around it, something like a touch of it, but nothing like a full on thing. How about you?
I think I agree with that. Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, look, as much fun as I'm sure it would be to have a Star Wars wedding or something, it's
or like
not
a Mario wedding.
Yeah, it's not exactly. I don't really want that. Like, I would rather just have a normal ass wedding.
Now,
I would like to get married at Disney World though, with Mickey Mouse.
You did have
present.
a themed. That would be cool. You had a themed bar mitzvah.
Sure, that's probably the closest thing. Yeah, when you're 13 and you're Jewish, you get to have a bar mitzvah, and that's kind of close. That's more.
Right.
It's more common. Kids usually will have a theme for that, and
Some
that's
kind of theme. Yeah.
That's kind of like what it is. Mine was cartoons, of course, for anyone listening or who doesn't know, who wasn't able to attend.
Was it cartoons or was it general television?
It was specifically cartoons. Every table was I had, SpongeBob and Invader Zim and The Simpsons and Scooby Doo. I had all my favorites.
And you had TV. You had a TV playing TV shows. It was great. It was
good fun. Yeah, good times. But I would if I got invited to a Game of Thrones wedding. Well, first I would say, is this a Game of Thrones themed wedding or is this a Song of Ice and Fire themed wedding? Because if it's the latter, I'll be more interested in attending because I'm more about the original books than the show. You see,
you're a fucking nerd.
Okay. Right. That's right. And I can confirm this is a Game of Thrones themed wedding, and the way that I know that is because the language High Valyrian in the books is not fleshed out enough to have an entire language. It was developed later on by a guy working on the show. So that is the actual structure of this language. The majority of it is coming from the TV show. Just a little fun fact for you if you want to know that.
Because TV shows have filler, and a book really... I mean, a book can have filler, too, but it's more, a TV show thing.
Yeah.
Now, are there any wedding things that you would be like, absolutely not, I'm not going to? Like, it was like if me and Danny were like, hey, come to our Hello Kitty themed wedding. Or like,
Well, Caitlin says this is like a casual friend. If it was a good friend, honestly, I'd probably go to any... Unless it was someone who I really don't like. But why are they inviting me to their wedding?
But if you really don't like them, or you're like, you would just use that as an excuse. Like even if it was like a Mario theme, you'd be like, I'm good, thank you. You use that for an excuse, but it's going to be a fun time and it's going to be a good thing. So it's like just go to it.
If nothing else, you'll have a story to tell about it.
Right. Or if you don't like the show, go there and then make fun of it with whoever later.
Right.
It's an entertainment thing. Now, what is the definition of a casual friend? Is it like a work acquaintance?
I don't know. Caitlin says they speak maybe 2 or 3 times a month. So, I don't know.
I mean, most of my friends, that's how often we speak.
It's hard for me. This is the thing. I think there are, normies out there who have hundreds of friends. Mm-hmm. For me, even just now when I was saying, if it was a friend who invited me that I didn't like that much, it's like, the only people, if you're close enough to me to invite me to a wedding, I'm probably going to that wedding.
Right.
There's I think there are people out there who are like, I got to invite these 20, this guy from work and that person from high school. And it's hard for me to relate to that, but I guess that's how some people are.
Yeah, because even for me, I don't have a ton of friends, but I'm close to all of them. So if somebody is like, hey, come to my wedding, it's going to be whatever themed, I'm like, absolutely. So that's,
Yeah, I don't really have, casual friends. You're either a good friend or I don't know you.
Well, I can see, a casual friend being, somebody's significant other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we have friends who have significant others who pop in occasionally. That, I guess, to me, would be a casual friend. Somebody who, I get along with, but I'm not, we're not going out for coffee every week or whatever. So like I guess that would be a casual friend, but I wouldn't really call that like, or even work friends would be an acquaintance.
Right. Yeah. I guess people just
You know,
have different definitions.
I've had people who like I worked with. It's like, oh, sure, let's go out to the bar or whatever. That would be more of an acquaintance. Like I wouldn't invite you to my house.
Right. So we're fine with the idea of themed weddings, but let's get to the real aspect of this case, which is the language barrier.
Right. Yeah, literal.
Yes. Yep. Literal. The language barrier.
Yep.
Hi, Valerian.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I have plenty of thoughts about this, but would that discourage you more from attending a wedding, knowing they were going to be speaking a fictional language for most of it?
Well, I was thinking about it being, would you go to a wedding? So if you had somebody who didn't speak English,
right.
or maybe English was their second language or whatever, would you not go to that wedding? You know what I mean? Like if you went to a wedding and they were speaking a completely different language than what you know, like if you went to a Russian wedding and they were speaking
why
their
are they in
native
such a
tongue
hurry?
Well, it's a wedding. It's quick. It's expensive.
Oh, okay, it's
to
like a
get
shotgun
get
wedding.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
But like, would you not go to a wedding where you knew they weren't going to be speaking English during the ceremony? I'd still go. It's an experience.
Yeah, I went to the exact same place in my head, and I thought, yeah, of course, it seems very insensitive, borderline xenophobic to say, oh, I don't want to attend a wedding if they're going to be speaking Japanese or something.
Right. Oh, you don't speak American? I'm sorry, I will be not attending.
Yeah, like that's pretty weird. Now, in this case, maybe it's a little sillier because it's not a wedding. It's not a language most people speak.
Right.
The host of the wedding, the bride, has recommended that Caitlin start learning the language via Duolingo, which I had no idea Duolingo had fictional languages on there, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's a touch of like, come on, you're being ridiculous. The fact that it's not a real language, it's made up,
right,
changes the equation a little bit.
But even though, like, okay, let's say back to the Russian wedding, even if the bride
they're already
would
finished,
be like,
you're too late.
Hopefully they don't rush the honeymoon. Am I right?
Like premature ejaculation.
Yeah, I'm making a semen joke.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a podcast. We got to do that.
You got to have one per episode.
So, like, if I were to go to this Russian wedding, I would kind of be weird where they're like, hey, I need you to learn this language before you can come to the wedding.
Right.
Like, is this a prereq before coming to this wedding that you need to learn this language and you can't come if you don't know the language? Or is it like, oh, you'll understand things better?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time imagining that everyone at this wedding is going to speak not English.
And also, like, the wait staff at this wedding, like,
right.
You can't be, like, come into a place and be like, here, I need you to learn all this.
Now,
like,
I mean, the fact I am truly, it's impressive to me almost to the point where I can hardly believe this is a thing, where I can understand one or two people being such Game of Thrones nerds that they learn this language and can speak it.
Right.
But your entire bridal party, the groomsmen, the priest or whoever it is officiating the wedding, and even the speeches and the toasts supposedly are going to be in this language.
Yeah, she is asking, and it just said she. It didn't say that the husband or partner had anything to do with it. It seems like the bride-to-be is asking a lot of this.
It is crazy.
Because we already, like, yeah, sure, I would go to this wedding 100%, but that's not what we're
different
talking about. But for
the people in the wedding.
For there to be homework for this? Like, okay, let's bring up you were recently, I've never been in a wedding. Never been part of a wedding. You recently were a groomsman in a wedding of one of our friends.
Yeah.
Did you have homework?
Well, I didn't have, I will say this. I've been part of two weddings now in my life.
Ooh, look at you,
well,
Mr. Fancy
what
Pants.
can I say? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
It's true.
I certainly never had to learn a language. but there is the process of having to rent a tuxedo and having to go and get fitted for the tuxedo. And in this instance, the wedding was in New York. I'm in New Jersey, having to make plans for where to stay, how to get in and out. There are considerations and I mean, that's true for anyone attending the wedding, not just the people in the party, but like having to show up early and you take photos and stuff like that with everybody.
Right.
It's not nothing. Like I wouldn't call it homework. It's not like, oh man, it's such a burden or anything.
It's a time commitment.
Yeah, you do have to commit time and energy to being a part of this thing. And that's without having to learn how to speak another language.
Right. Like normally, yeah. So what would you say? You probably spent 2 days collectively out of your time doing wedding stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
In general.
Right.
And and that's without having homework or learning I hope that all of her friends in the wedding, I guess, watch the show, because you could have you have your brother or your sister in your wedding and you're like, oh, I've never seen the show. You just go, sorry, you're gone.
That's what I want to know. Like, are all these people super fans, or are they going to be butchering the pronunciation and like no one actually knows what they're saying? They just like Google translated to another language. Also, I mean, the parents can't be happy.
No, not at all. The parents are sitting there going, nah. And that's the other thing too. Like, you're usually like the mother and father give some kind of speech. Are you going to make your mom and dad learn a language to be part of your wedding? No.
Yeah, but apparently they did, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe we don't know. Maybe they're estranged from their parents or something, and I don't know.
But the other side of it too is put yourself in the shoes of the bride.
Ooh, okay. I feel sexy.
They're from Game of Thrones, so it's probably something uncomfortable.
Right.
Or they're just naked, because a lot of that show they were just nude, right? Wasn't that a lot of...
well, it depends. Yeah, it depends, yeah.
Right. So, if you're the bride and you're expecting so much out of everyone, and you get there that day and you're thinking, oh, they all learned this, why would you set yourself up for failure? Is really what I'm getting to. Because, like you said, someone's going to butcher it because they did a quick Google Translate of this language. Or, now I want to know, is this language on Google Translate?
Probably is, or some website. But then it's like, will anyone even know if it's butchered? Is anyone gonna like? So I feel like the only reason or right way to do this is if everyone you know is as hardcore as you are when it comes to this.
Right. Or else, like I was getting at, you'll be disappointed your entire wedding day.
Can we?
Because you'll be.
No, yeah, finish your thought.
Because you'll be having such a high standard of like, oh, they're going to learn this language. And then in your head, you're going to be like, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. They're not doing that right. What's going on?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that could be.
You'll be sitting out there. Actually, it's supposed to be pronounced like this.
They'll be getting thank you cards after the wedding with detailed notes as to their performances. We have to also point out that any Game of Thrones fan will know that, or anyone, even if you're not a Game of Thrones fan, there's a famous event in Game of Thrones known as the Red Wedding. Right. Which I won't spoil for anyone who hasn't read the books or seen the show, but let's just say things don't go well.
Huh, I couldn't tell.
And almost the audacity to theme your wedding after Game of Thrones.
Right.
Feels like you're tempting fate. Like,
right.
Something's going to go wrong. That's a little
exactly.
dangerous. Or at least you're tempting a million freaking jokes about that all day long at that wedding.
Right. Or, well, since you're theming it too, somebody could be like, oh, I'm going to dress up as the villain for this wedding and make, jokes, or like start like stabbing people. Like, not stabbing people, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
I'm coming in with a horse heart and I'm going to challenge people to duels and fights to the death. And
because like you're opening this up to interpretation and fun. So people are going to be like, hey, yeah, let's do this. Let's get weird with it. And then the bride's going to be like freaking out.
What would make it a really good Game of Thrones wedding is if, the wedding was between a brother and a sister.
Well, we don't know that. It could be.
Yeah, that would be on theme.
Hey, we don't know what state this was. It could be Alabama. You never know.
You never know. Did you ever any fictional languages you ever wanted to learn or thought or picked up on anything?
No, there's a few languages, like real languages, that I want to learn, just gave up on. But fictional wise, I don't even know what the only two languages that I know would be like Klingon from Star Trek, and this one. I can't even.
Well,
think of any...
Elvish is a big one. Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings.
I liked his music. What songs did he sing?
No, we're not gonna get into that. I do know. Oh, and then there's like Star Wars has Hutt-Ease.
True.
Some other
Yeah.
ones. The big
What
one.
about you?
I've learned a few phrases of Na'vi. Not that, like I could say, El Nati Kame, which is of course I see you.
Your wedding's going
El
to be...
Nati Kame.
So
You don't have to do a hand
paint...
motion, but
Are we all gonna have to paint ourselves blue
maybe
for your wedding? Yeah.
Maybe Squong means moron.
Of course. Okay, so you learned the key things for but yeah, I don't like there's nothing really like I'm not into like anything that majorly that I would learn.
It's a pretty intense commitment.
Right. Like I have hard enough time speaking my native tongue of English.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Now, okay, so the case at hand here, I'm really, it's an interesting one for me. I don't know. Are we ready to get into verdicts? Because I want to say something, but I feel like it might just get into my verdict, so I don't want to.
Well, my other thing is too. I was going to bring up. Do you think the food, the menu is going to be
it has to
around
be.
that time?
How could it not?
So
be?
So that would be another interesting thing too. You need to find. I mean, yeah, it is traditional food. It's not like we're talking about like Star Wars foods or anything like that. But like you need to find somebody who can do traditional, medieval-ish foods, right? Because it's about the Middle Ages.
I mean, it's a fictional world. It's not our world, but yeah.
Was there any weird foods from the show that you think?
I mean, besides a horse heart that they eat at one point,
right?
No, it is mostly like
traditionally
we eat like roast pig and figgy pudding. Yeah, it's very like English. It is like that.
Medieval times. Yeah,
pretty much that. Yes,
right.
I'm sure there are more hardcore fans than I am who will tell you, oh, there's very specific dishes that I can't think of, but
because thinking about the entire thing, it is a fairly basic theme to have a Game of Thrones wedding, but to have it be I think the biggest thing is the language issue.
Yeah,
and that is the hard part that she's expecting a lot from.
Yeah, in terms of as wedding themes go, it's not so outlandish. Like a Star Trek would be very obvious that this is a weird thing.
Right.
This is like, look, it could just be big Renaissance fair people, and it's
exactly
kind of that kind of garb. It still can look nice,
Oh, my other thought was, do you need to pay to learn this language? Like, is that app free?
Duolingo is free. You can pay for like different stuff,
plugins or extras. Okay, so it's not like it's not a thing you have to pay towards. Because I was going to say, if you have to pay to learn this language, then absolutely not. I will not be coming to you.
Right. All right. Shall I verdict?
Yeah.
Okay.
You shall.
So
but you must do it in the language.
All right. That sounds more like Klingon.
Yeah.
I know Valar Morghulis. That's like the big one. Something like that from the High Valyrian. Doesn't matter. It's not like High Valyrian, by the way, is a language that every character in Game of Thrones speaks all the time. It's sort of a more traditional language that only is like some of the fancier people, or like kind of a lost culture kind of language. So
it's like the Klingon language.
But Klingons speak Klingon when they're with Klingons.
Right. But it's not even that in depth.
No,
in Game of Thrones?
It's like Latin or something. It's like, you know what I mean?
Okay, they were originally based on that, and now we're doing. Okay,
kind of.
I got you.
It's more close. I know people will tell me I'm wrong, but that's right. Closer to it. But anyway, I feel like the bride, if I were in this wedding party, I'd be pretty mad, and I kind of feel like she's guilty for making these people take part in this, and this is a burden. This is a lot. However, I don't feel that any of that negatively affects Caitlin, who is our defendant.
Right.
And the things that I am upset with the bride for don't upset me on Caitlin's behalf. And in Caitlin's position, I sort of understand the being hesitant about this and not being thrilled with the idea, but truthfully, the idea, like we said, of going to a wedding where they're speaking a fictional language and they're dressing up and you won't know what's going on, I just think that's fun.
Right. Yeah.
And I think not wanting to go because of that is boring. And I think Caitlin is guilty of being boring. And she's well within her right, and certainly this would be a stronger case against her if this were, say, a close friend or a relative.
100%.
Since it's just a casual friend, sure, you can not go, but you're basic. You're boring. Yeah. So to me, in my eyes, Caitlin's guilty. What about you?
I'm thinking I'm agreeing with you because, like, this show, how long was the show out for? Like 8 years?
Yeah.
Give or take. The bride could be thinking, oh, this has been my lifelong plan. I don't know. How long were the books out?
Well, the first one probably came out early 90s, maybe.
This could be a childhood dream that this girl has had for her dream wedding all of her life. That she wanted to do this, and then the show came on, and it made it even better. So, like, you're kind of like poo-pooing her idea of fun and that's kind of stuff. You don't need to pay anything. You only the whatever wedding gift and your outfit and getting there. Most weddings are boring, and you really don't understand what's going on to begin with at the ceremony, especially if you go to like a religious wedding. And I didn't even bring up this. Most, like, if you go to a traditional Catholic or whatever God wedding, they're going to be speaking some kind of Latin or something during the ceremony that you're not going to understand anyway. So just go along with it, smile and nod. I agree with you. Take in everything as it's a fun adventure. It's not traditional. It's weird. It's out there. Step outside of your comfort zone, and that's what this wedding is. And I'd have to say that she is guilty of not having a fun time.
Yeah. It's not like once the reception starts and everyone's dancing and eating, like they're all going to be speaking High Valyrian the rest of the night. Right. Like they're going to be talking English to you.
Right. And like a wedding ceremony lasts maybe half an hour?
Right. Yeah.
So like go have fun.
Go for it. Just go for it. So, I mean, the obvious sentencing here is that Caitlin, I think, needs to get in a relationship with someone who is super into some nerdy property, and she has to then get married and have a Lord of the Rings themed wedding and learn Elvish. Right.
Learn the lyrics to Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog, learn the lyrics to another Blue Hawaii, all the Elfish songs on the show. My thing would be, you have to watch all of Game of Thrones. You have to watch it. Not really a punishment.
It might be a punishment by the time you get to the last couple seasons.
You also have to read all the books.
Yeah.
Play all the board games.
And you cannot die before George R.R. Martin publishes the final Game of Thrones book. You must read them all.
Yep. And, I think she needs to, go to, what's the bride's name?
We didn't really name her.
Okay, you have to go to the bride's house, and you must now become a third in their relationship.
Oh, that's good.
You have to live in there. You have to be probably part of their throuple.
I like that. Now, I kind of also want to punish the bride, though, a little bit.
A little bit.
But I don't know. There are circumstances there we don't know about. But like I said, if everyone in her party is not super on board with Game of Thrones, then she needs to answer. She better be at least paying for something for them. Like they don't.
Well,
I don't know.
The punishment is going to be having the wedding, and that one person not learning anything, and the bride's. The friend of the groom is giving a speech in like Klingon or just full on English.
Yeah. She's got to sit there and grin and bear it and grit her teeth while she's listening to all the grammar errors they're making.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're not going to get married anytime soon to each other on this show.
What? But I gave you a ring.
Ooh. Oops.
Where's your... You forgot the... Oh, we're going to have a talk later.
But maybe some of our listeners and viewers are going to get married and have thoughts about a themed wedding, or they have thoughts about today's case in general. What language would you learn and force your wedding guests to learn in order to attend. You can email us. Our address is geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also go there to submit your own geeky case that we will analyze, take in, and spit back out at you in a fun and entertaining format. Whatever problem you're having, we will settle it. Just email us or use our handy-dandy form, which is a link in the description.
And you can send us that in any language you want to. We'll translate it. Doesn't matter if it's real, fictional, or what. We'll get it. We'll figure that out. And you can also help us support the show by going to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/geeksontrial, and help us pay for a wedding.
Yeah.
Especially, we'll have a podcast-themed wedding. It'll be everyone sitting at the table with microphones, with headphones on, and we'll only talk about white guy stuff and come. It'll be great.
I love this idea. Every table after the end has their own podcast. And you get to listen to Table 8 podcast, Table 6 podcast, and
I actually do kind of like that. Or how weddings have like a photo booth. You have a microphone booth where people go in and say a few words, and it becomes a podcast.
All right, cut this out because this is our next podcast. We're gonna make this one. This is gonna be huge.
You mean kata?
That's what I meant. Now, if anyone listening right now or watching, when this is new, we need to remind you that this coming Monday, July 3rd. We are going to be taking part in the Summer Bash tournament for Codenames Live, which is a show where we go on Twitch and play the card game Codenames, which is a really fun word game. You'll get to watch the two of us compete as a team. We may be in more than one episode, but our guaranteed first appearance is Monday, July 3rd. I believe it is at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. If you search for Nerd Incorrect or Codenames Live on Twitch, you should find it. Of course, we'll have it on our social media and everything like that, but it'd be fun if you tuned in.
And if you're hanging out in the chat room there while we're playing, let us know. Help us out. We need to move on. We need to be on the show, and we need to win.
That's right.
We need to win.
Winning's
now,
all
where
that
can
matters.
people find you when you're not on this or Codenames?
Well, I'm excited because you can follow me on Twitter at Quentz, and I also sometimes write for the Nintendo news website GoNintendo.com, and I got to recently play a couple of big new upcoming Switch titles. And my impressions are on there. By the time you're listening to this, you should be able to find them by searching or even just see them on the homepage. One of those games was Pikmin 4, which I'm extremely excited about. It comes out next month. I loved it. The other one is Everybody 1-2 Switch, which is already out, actually, by the time you're listening to this. Quick turnaround on that one, which is a very stupid party game hosted by a man in a horse mask. So if you want to read my impressions of those, you can check them out at GoNintendo.com.
And you can find me over at my website, ivanhan.com. And this week on The Snack Guy, it's Pride Week. So I'm going to have 2 or 3 episodes coming out this week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And they are going to be Pride-themed episodes. So it's youtube.com/thesnackguy for all that fun stuff.
Now, June is Pride Month, but you also have a specific Pride Week in Pride Month?
I do, because I didn't want to record a Pride thing every day in the month.
Okay. Oh, so wait, this is just for you made this up?
This is my Pride Week.
Okay.
This is the Snack Guy Pride Week, yes.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Well, because the New York Pride convention, New York Pride Parade happened on Sunday. So I guess, Sunday after Pride is a thing in New York.
I always get to open one present early on Pride Eve.
Oh, good. Which one? What did you open this year?
This year, it was something offensive. That's all I know.
I'm sure it was. It usually is.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Let's leave before I get canceled. My name's Jonathan Estes.
My name's Ivan Hahn, and this has been Geeks on Trial, or Game of Thrones, GOT. Anyway, see you next time.
Wow.